Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, you're not going to believe it. You're just not going to believe it. This, Boulez, the conductor. I mean, all of his own music's in here, too, so he's also the composer. And what else was he? He wasn't anything else. The idea of Boulez, the conductor, suggests that he was something else. Boulez, the electrician. Boulez, the plastic surgeon. Boulez, the singing telegram delivery guy. No, he was the conductor. That's what he was when he wasn't composing. And actually, he spent much more time conducting than he did composing, so there you go. Anyway, 88 CDs plus, 82 CDs, 83 CDs. Oh, he talks. Well, we ignore that. That's a CD 83. Pierre Boulez on Debussy, Mahler, and Webern, and how he used to date all of them at one point or another. And then we have a Blu-ray disc of the Cherot Ring. So you've got 83 CDs, 82 have music, arguably. One of them is talking, and 4 of them is Wagner. 4 of them are Wagner, whatever they are. Okay, now here's the thing. Does anybody think, that we don't already have all the stuff that's in here because it's been issued 150 times since Boulez died? That was the most thoughtful thing he actually did for Deutsche Grammophon, because that limits this to 82 or 83 CDs. Well, the 83rd CD was after he died too, so death never stops anybody from finding 1 or 2 other things to issue. But the truth of the matter is, Boulez is a conductor who has not a shred of human emotion anywhere in his body. And so he often chose music to conduct that had not a shred of human emotion anywhere in its notes or bar lines. And I think that as a result of that, his performances, some of them are really quite interesting. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But the point I want to make is that it was fine for him to do music that had the emotion built in, because he didn't have to add anything. And even though he did his best to suck the soul out of a lot of it, it came off quite well. And the approach was interesting, because there are plenty of people who are willing to emote all over the place. There aren't so many who are willing to do what Boulez did, which was vivisect whatever he was conducting. And, but the real point, and I'm not saying this to be, I know that sounds terrible and very critical, but he had an approach. And that was his approach. He was a complete cipher as a human being. And I have, the point I want to make here is this huge box is coming out. But, remember this? Boulez does Bartok. Boulez does Mahler. There's Boulez does Debussy and Ravel. There's Boulez does Stravinsky. There was Boulez does Boulez. Then there was, Then there was Boulez does modern music, which fell all over the place. Boulez, the 20th Century Collection, which is mostly here. How many discs is this? The 20th Century Collection is, let's see, it doesn't say anywhere here how many CDs are in here. It really should someplace. 44 CDs. So that's basically half of what's in here. And actually, just about everything he did was 20th century. There's nothing that's, before basically 1890. So, let me put this thing back because I just knocked it out. I just think that in order to get the most out of Boulez, in order to really appreciate what he was doing, especially with music like, Mahler and those people that otherwise has some sort of human passion behind it, you have to find what I would consider to be a passion substitute to enjoy while you're listening. So you can put some of the juice back into the music while enjoying what he does to it for its own demented sake. Truthfully, I believe that. And so the best thing to use is food. And I have here some typical examples. Pringles, potato chips, are excellent with Boulez, particularly with his Debussy. Debussy goes very well with Pringles potato chips, and Boulez's Debussy particularly goes well with this flavor, the cheddar cheese Pringle, which is absolutely fabulous with Boulez's Debussy. In fact, since we're going to be talking about it, excuse me. I think, might as well, right? Oh, la mer. Je. Oh, the homage. The prelude to the afternoon of a fawn. Oh, I'm ready. You see? That's all you need to do. It's delicious. And then, well, for Bartok and Stravinsky and those people, the 20th century ones, a little bit cooler. I think you can have, but a little. But you need something maybe a little less crunchy, but more substantial for that kind of music. And for that, I choose peanut M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms go superbly with Bartok and Stravinsky, and maybe a little better with Bartok than Stravinsky because they have that sort of earthy quality. It depends whether it's late Stravinsky or early Stravinsky, naturally. This is better with early Stravinsky. Perhaps the almond M&Ms go better with late Stravinsky. But select your M&Ms. There's a million varieties of them now, so that's fine. Those go well. And for Mahler, Mahler. For Mahler, with Boulez, you just have to have mint-flavored Oreos. I mean, Mahler without mint-flavored Oreos is just practically a waste of time in Boulez's performances. Because these are so good. I mean, look at this. You get this delicious chocolatey cookie with the yummy green filling. I mean, it's like, oh, so good. Oh, yeah. I mean, jump on one of these. You won't care what order the inner movements of the Sixth Symphony go in. You just have your Oreo and you'll be happy. So, for the sake of it, let's just run through this. I'm ready. I'm fortified. I have a couple general observations about this set. The first is that most of it is duplicative of music that Boulez already did for Sony earlier in his career. And where you can compare the two, where you have a choice, the earlier versions are generally superior. Not always, but generally. So that you should just keep in mind. Not that these are bad. They're not. They're really not. But they are usually a little slower, a little more slackly held, a little more razor sharp and analytical. The things that we listen to Boulez for, he kind of got a little mellower. Maybe he had a few mint-flavored Oreos somewhere in his life, and that, or a Pringle, God forbid, and it just mellowed him out. I think that may have had something to do with it. But let's start here. Everything's in alphabetical order, and really, fortunately, he tended to do things in clumps. He was a clumper. And, in fact, perhaps the best thing for a clumper is to have Rice Krispie treats. Those Rice Krispies with marshmallow fluff in them that you cook and they're all stuck together. Those are clumps, yummy clumps. A yummy clump once in a while is a good thing. So there's his Bartok. And his Bartok is usually very good. It really is. But as I said, the earlier stuff is usually better. That's the truth. It really is. Not always. And there are things in here that he didn't do before, like, the Cantata Profana and the Second Violin Concerto and that stuff. So you're getting more music in this thing. And so I suppose, excuse me, I have an itch here. And so I suppose that's a benefit, assuming you don't already have this thing, right? If you do, you're just as far ahead. I just crushed my Oreo. Oh, my goodness. All right, so there's Bartok. Then there's Berg, the Chamber Concerto and the Lulu Suite, which they're good. They're very good. They're fine. But the best thing, of course, is Lulu itself, or herself, which he never did anywhere, and that is probably the best thing he ever made. It's absolutely fabulous. It's terrific. It's wonderful. So, that's something you'll only get here, or if you can get Lulu separately, as I did when it came out, with Teresa Stratus and all that. Oh, it's so much fun. And then we have Berlioz, Symphony Fantastique, Tristia, Romeo and Juliet, and La Nuit d'été. If there was anybody who was not meant to play Berlioz, it was Boulez. And you really need like some major fortification if you're going to listen to his Berlioz, because you've got to put the passion back. His Tristia is rather a good performance, but then that's just such a weird thing anyway. It's, three separate movements, mostly about death. And so he does those perfectly fine, but his Symphony Fantastique on Sony was even more bizarre than this one. This one has calmed down a bit, but it's not his thing. Let's not kid ourselves. Then we have Harrison Birtwistle, 2 discs of Harrison Birtwistle. And if you like Harrison Birtwistle, then you'll like Harrison Birtwistle. Boulez doing it. There is no demonstrable way to say that his view of Birtwistle is any more Birtwhistlerian than anyone else's Birtwistle. So just go for Birtwistle any way you can get your Birtwistle, and you will feel ecstatic. Don't I look ecstatic? I can't even come up with a snack to go with Birtwistle. Maybe tapioca pudding. That might work. Anyway, then we've got Boulez's own music, which, as you know, I think is largely junk. I mean, there are some good pieces in here. I think that, well, none of them are in here. Oh, well. I think his best piece is Ritual in Memoriam Bruno Maderna. That's really a cool piece. It really is. It's quite marvelous. But, for the rest of it, well, here it is again. Okay. And we have Bruckner 8. Very good Bruckner 8. I think really, it's because it's the Vienna Philharmonic. They were in St. Florian. I think what happened there is Boulez basically said to them, okay, guys, let's do Bruckner 8. And then he just sat in a chair, and they played Bruckner 8. Came out beautifully. And then we have, Debussy. Debussy is wonderful. It really is. It's first class. It's first class, and these remakes are, on the whole, better than his first go-round, except for the Image. And they're all with Cleveland, but the first Cleveland Image on Sony is better than the DG one, but La Mer is excellent. Je is terrific. The Nocturnes are terrific. It's all very, very, very good. No question about it. You don't even need a snack for that. But I do think Pringles really help. I mean, they help a lot of ways. They really do. And Ligeti, the Chamber Concerto, Ramifications, Aventure, Nouvelle Aventure, Piano Concerto, Cello Concerto, Violin Concerto. Ligeti is a wonderful composer. Boulez plays him very well. He does not play him better than the other million people now who do Ligeti and do him superbly well. There's the Ligeti edition on Sony. Salonen did Ligeti. All kinds of people do Ligeti and do him great. There's no particular advantage to having Boulez, but there's no disadvantage either. So that's perfectly fine. And then we have Liszt, Piano Concertos 1 and 2. I think those with Amart, I think, or somebody. Wait a minute. Let's see if I can take this out. This is another box of doom. Hold it. There it is. Got it out. It's out. What disc is this? Liszt is number 28. It's nicely color-coded. I'll give it that. Let's see, 28 is, here it is. They were right. Oh, it's with Barenboim, that's right. Barenboim, I remember those. No, I don't. I don't remember them at all, which probably tells you all you need to know about how wonderful they were. And let's see. Mahler, oh yes, Mahler, okay. Now, as I said, Boulez's Mahler, I enjoy for its utter, soullessness and emotional sterility. I think that that's an achievement in Mahler, and I'll tell you why. First of all, it's an excuse to eat more chocolate mint Oreos, and, I think anything that gives you an excuse to have those must be a good thing. But beyond that, what these performances prove is that they give complete lie to the notion that Mahler is just, a big pile of emotional excess and, vulgar eclecticism. Boulez emphasizes, and, I think that it's perfectly reasonable to do that, the structural integrity of the music, the fact that a lot of the expressive excess is built in. Try as he might to stomp it down and tamp it out. He can't. And so you can emphasize other things, the clarity, the color, the contrapuntal element, all of those things. And he does do those things now and again, and he does them quite well. And so for that reason, I'm all for it. I'm all for his Mahler. I really am. There are performances that I truly, truly enjoy. His first is dynamite. It's just wonderful with Chicago. And I like his fourth with Cleveland. I like the seventh with Cleveland, which is really a total evisceration. It's like dissecting a frog while its heart's still beating when you're in chem lab or biology class, which we did, you know. You just zap it with formaldehyde and start cutting. That's what that seventh is like. It reminded me of that very, very vividly, I must say. And, so there are good things in there. His Das Knaben Wunderhorn is first rate. The Das Klagenlied and the other songs are so-so. Das Lied von der Erde is very mediocre. But, well, what the heck? And you get two versions of the sixth here, which is kind of interesting. Let me take a look at this other one. Number 43. Wait a minute. Gotta get it out again. Here we go. It's coming out. Number 43. Here it is. 43. Oh, that's the one with the Staatskapelle Berlin. Yes, exactly. You get an extra one. In case you lose the first one, you get two. It's a very similar performance, but what the hell. Messiaen. Now, Boulez was only interested in the non-transcendental Messiaen. He was interested only in the stuff that was like avant-garde, rather formalistic. Well, all of Messiaen was formalistic. And, of course, he wasn't interested in any of the Messiaen that had anything that was like humorous. Well, of course, there is no humor in Messiaen. He was the most humorless person that I've ever met. But aside from being completely humorless, he was unintentionally humorous, if you know what I mean. There are things in some of those pieces that provoke a smile, however unintentional. But he's not interested in any of that. He's not interested in any of the mysticism and, 20 glances at this and 57 genuflections at that and 3 liturgies about hoo-ha. He didn't care. What he wants to do is the poems Pour Me, the bird thing, the 7 haiku, chronochromie, La Ville d'en haut. I mean, of course, it's all about heaven. That's about heaven. You can't get away from it entirely, but he does his best. And Et Expecto Resurrectionem Mortuorum, and they're very good performances, of course, because Messiaen is unkillable. As long as you do what he says to do, it does what it's supposed to do. And the interpreter plays very little role in achieving any of that. And then we have, let's see, the Mozart Grand Partita. Yeah. And Berg's Chamber Concerto. And then we get Ravel. Ravel. Boulez's Ravel is smoking. It's fabulous. And these Berlin remakes are so beautiful, so exquisitely played. They are the finest things that Boulez did for Deutsche Grammophon in his later career. His Ravel is absolutely stunning and glorious. From first note to last, it is a magnificent achievement. And I understand why, I think. Because Ravel's emotions are also entirely fake. Everything is distanced in Ravel. He has this sort of childlike innocence and cool reserve, and the feeling that's at bottom is completely concealed behind the perfection of technique and the supremely polished surface. And I think Boulez saw a lot of himself in that music, and so he conducted it with unbelievable fidelity and conviction. It's just marvelous. So after Ravel, we get, let's see, Schoenberg, Peleus and Melisande, which is the opposite of Sinopoly. Let's put it that way, because I just did a talk on Sinopoly. Sinopoly is all chromatic sludge and goop. It's dark and sleazy. Boulez is sort of buffed and tidy. He's just run it through a car wash, and it's been Jiffy Lubed. And so if you like Jiffy Lube, or, just have a peanut M&M. It'll get you through it. And let's see. And the Piano Concerto, which is fine. And Pira Lunaire and Herzgewächse and the Ode to Napoleon Bonaparte. All of that is okay, but there are better Pira Lunaires out there for damn sure. And then Moses and Aaron, his second recording of it, which is first rate. Absolutely frustrating. Boulez is very funny. He was a better opera composer, opera conductor, than people give him credit for. Of course, he didn't do like Puccini, but he was a sensitive accompanist and really a very gracious podium guy in the pit, which is something that often isn't mentioned. But he had a real theatrical sense, and he was very considerate of his singers. So it's a very good Moses and Aaron. Scriabin, the poem of ecstasy, the piano concerto, and Prometheus. Now, do we really, really want to hear Boulez do that? I love cool Scriabin. My favorite poem of ecstasy is Messiaen in Cleveland. That's pretty cool. But there's cool, and then there's like no amount of snacking is going to save that. You would have to eat something that would be, a coronary arrest on a plate, a diabetic coma in order to get you back to what, Scriabin's supposed to sound like. So I don't pay any attention to Boulez in that. His Also sprach Zarathustra, remember that was Chicago? Ugh. It was coupled with the Mahler Totenfeier, which was equally dull. Just a boring record. He had no sense of fun, Boulez, none at all. No sense of the music's, joyful sleazosity, and why even ask him, right? And then we had Stravinsky. Now, he was always very good at Stravinsky, but the early ballets come off better on Sony than in these remakes, which are just a little bit duller. They're still very good, but they're a little bit duller. And the later neoclassical stuff is extremely well done. You get the, Histoire de Soldat and the four etudes and fireworks, a lot of little tchotchkes. And the symphonies of wind instruments, the Symphony of Psalms is horrible. It was originally missing half a bar. They put it back, and it didn't improve it at all. The nicest thing about missing half a bar is that the performance was half a bar shorter. That was all to the good. What's interesting is that he did so little late Stravinsky, probably because it was all religious music. So he didn't do it. He would have done it very well. There are a couple like sort of late things here. There's the let's see, Elegy, Epitaphium, the double canon, some songs, but largely it's like small weird Stravinsky, and I'm a little surprised. He could have given us better and more, and he didn't. He just didn't, and I'm just terribly surprised. And in and amongst that stuff is Burt Whistle's The Triumph of Time. Lucky us, we go back to the Burt Whistle stuff. And then there's Szymanowski's Violin Concerto No. 1 and Symphony No. 3, The Song of the Night. Once again, we need to have, I think, beef jerky. Something that puts a few red corpuscles back into the music there. They're not great Szymanowski recordings. They really aren't. And there are wonderful ones of all that music, so we don't have to worry about that. Then we have Varese, Emmerich, Arcana, Desert, Ionization. I think these Varese performances don't hold a candle to his first ones on Sony. They are so much more enthusiastic and fun to listen to, and raw and primal and rugged. These remakes, again, they're not terrible, but they don't have anything like the energy and the color and the you definitely need some M&Ms to put a little of the earthiness back in your Varese. Peanuts, they're just perfect. And then we get the ring, the Chirot ring and Parsifal. Now the Parsifal is incredibly fast, and some people like it, and most people think it's just incredibly fast. It's not terrible. It's not memorable. It really isn't memorable in any particular way. The ring, the Chirot ring, is more interesting visually than it is vocally. Gwyneth Jones was Gwyneth Jones and sort of over the hill, and the singing is so-so, and the conducting is rather light and somewhat quick in the Karajan mold, but Karajan, of course, did it better. And so, if you want to see three hookers on a hydroelectric plant, then you definitely want to see this ring. And the music is almost incidental to the interpretation, the socialist critique of human existence, if that's what interests you. I don't have a lot of patience for this. I saw the videos. I owned them. I had laser discs. I tried. I really tried. But at the end of the day, however well-formed it is as a conception, I don't find it particularly moving. And, the ring should be moving. Boulez, you got to put your juice back in your Wagner. I mean, that's another one where the Oreos come in handy. Although I think if you get the carrot cake Oreos, it'll be very, very tasty. They'll go very well with your ring. And you got to get, of course, the party size, so you can get through the bloody thing. And you get it twice because you get it as a DVD, and who cares? Then you get his Webern. His Webern stuff is first rate. It really is. It's better than his Sony stuff was, generally speaking, and it needs no fortification at all. In fact, if you have anorexia or bulimia or an eating disorder, start with Boulez's Webern, because it will not require you to take any heroic measures. You'll be fine just the way you are. He does wonderful Webern. Yes, he does. So that was good. And then we've got his talk, and then we've got the ring again on Blu-ray or whatever that was. So here it is. Boulez the Conductor, 88 CDs, in case you don't already have all of this other stuff. I don't get it. I really don't get it. There's so much stuff that DG could release. They could have done a complete Sinopoly edition. Okay, half of it's garbage, but it's okay. That's the thought that counts, right? I mean, there are other people they could be paying attention to. Why do they keep doing Boulez? Is there really a market for this? Do people really, really care that much about what Boulez thought about these things? Maybe they do. Maybe they do. I'm not in a position to say. All I can say is that I don't, and I doubt you will too. But in case you've been living, on, for example, planet Baxia or someplace, and you just haven't been around for the past 4,000 years, you may want this. I mean, you can get all your Boulez in one giant clump, but get some snacks. You're going to need them. Trust me, you will need them. So keep on listening, folks. Thanks for joining me. Take care.